Hello and welcome to Junkyard Studios. This is going to be the third installment of my lathe video. I'm hoping that this time we will emboss. I'd like to get to the pudding, so to speak. A couple of things that I didn't cover in the other video that I need to do is I want a dummy load of some sort for setting up the amps to levels that are going to make sense to the head. I'm probably just going to build the same dummy load that I did for my test equipment, just on a smaller scale. That way I can get levels set through my monitor speaker and then apply them to the head, and hopefully that translates. We've also already run into a problem with our 45 RPM plate. We need to redesign it. The new motor sits a little taller than the older one, and the puck doesn't grab the plate correctly, so we need to redesign it to push the motor down about a ½ inch, and I think I'm going to accomplish that with a more secure connection to the plate. The plate just had threaded holes for the securing bolts to go through, but you only had about a thread or two to hold onto that really thin metal plate. I'm thinking of putting in riv nuts to support that, but also use them as spacers so they set the motor down where it actually connects to the rim drive plate appropriately. I'm going to try and get more of my test setups into this next video. I'm going to be using 2 VU meters from a Yamaha mixer that was broken, and I stole the preamp cards and the VU meters from it. I used the preamp cards in the plate reverb video. That particular preamp box ended up not really working. I haven't revisited it. The VU meters seem to be working fine. I'm going to use them for the lathe. I've got my inverse RIAA box that I've made. I'm going to send it a signal. I don't need audio. I don't need to hear the wave in here because it's just going to be annoying. It's just a wave. It's like a sine wave. I don't think anybody needs to hear that. So I don't have it hooked up to a speaker, but I'm sending my signal in to my filter and then back out, and I'm going to meter the output. Why I want to go through all this trouble is I want an input and an output meter at the lathe to know that I have a signal coming in and a signal going out to the head without having to wonder, without having to think, oh, well, maybe my head's blown and the signal's there. This way I'll know, all right, I've got noise on my input, I've got noise on my output, my problem is elsewhere. If I turn on the signal generator and my filter, you saw the needle jump. We've got some audio. As I give it a little more amplitude, we can see the needle moving. So we know that if I jump some connections from my output, I'm thinking about putting 2 RCA jacks coming out of the VU meter wires that I have hooked up here. If we do that, I can jump right off the output jacks and have signaling, so I can very easily see, all right, I don't have an audio problem. I've added our meter output for the input side because the input's going to come straight to the inverse RIA filter that we built. So I want to meter that, and then it did not work on the output. I think there just isn't enough level there. So that's probably going to come from the amplifier before the head. So we'll figure that part out later. But we have a meter input so we can see what we're sending to the lathe before the filtering, and then I'm going to have an output to see what level I'm sending the head. And that's going to tie into our meter and our heater terminal plate. I prepped all the wiring. I prepped the plate. Looks pretty good from this side, in my opinion. It works pretty well. You feed it a signal in there and I didn't have to build a circuit. I could have found a circuit and built one. I could have found a bunch of stuff on eBay that I could have slapped in there. And if this doesn't work very well, we'll go down that route, but I think it's going to be fine. I'd rather just use something that I have hanging around. I did purchase the heater terminal because I didn't want to use my variable DC power supply. I actually bought it for that purpose, but it worked so well that it ended up being part of my bench instead, and I got a cheaper supply that I could kind of hack apart and put into a panel and do revisions in the future and service it a little easier. I have our test set up ready to go. Our inverse RIAA preamp is in place. We have our meters, our meter panel, and our heater. We're not worried about the heater right now. That's not really connected. It's just part of the panel, so it's there because it has to be. And then we have our amplifier running into our dummy load. I have another video about the dummy load I'm working on. In a test situation, I have a speaker hooked into it to kind of take the place of the panel for now, so I can hear that the audio is coming through. We can hear the sound loud and clear. And this did this. No, it's not doing it this time, but the meter's working. What was weird is when I played with this cable, there must be a loose connection. It got better, and it got worse. So I'll have to revisit that, but it does work. I tried the output meter back over to the input of the dummy load, but it didn't really work. It made noise, so I'm going to have to come up with a different thought with that. But everything else we can kind of tack down and get ready to go. I finally stuffed it all back in there, and boy was it a challenge. This thing is spring loaded. I'm going to have to change that later. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I just kind of ignored for now, just to get it rolling, and I'll have to revisit later. I have the power supplied to the unit. It's hard to see because it's light in here, but there is my lighting. You can see the little shadows there. I made some lighting for my cabinet here. I made these two little crude doors for now. That's pretty those up later. But this is all lit up. I got tired of coming in here and trying to fix stuff with no light and holding the flashlight and all that, so I ran some rope lighting all the way through all the important pieces so I could work on some of that stuff without having to search for a flashlight. There's our panel. There is some lighting on the VU meter that I haven't figured out yet. Not a real big issue. Here's our heater terminals. I'm going to unplug them. I still haven't secured that panel yet. That's another item I'm just kind of ignoring for now. And there's our DC for our heater terminals. Here's our adjustment. Everything works pretty good. I got that on a circuit breaker, kind of temporary right now. I'm going to add all of the other electronics to the circuit breaker as well at some point, so that it's separate from the motor circuit breaker I'm going to install. You can see those monster fuses back there. That's what I'm hoping to eliminate with the motor run circuit breaker. We'll kind of ignoring that for now again. Here's my button panel. This is my motor speed. It's not in any position right now. We set up the vacuum on the last video lift. It hasn't been implemented yet. Here's my ion blower. That's functioning well. That's going to get rid of static when we try and emboss. Here's my stylus light, just kind of silly, but it actually does. It helps. You can kind of see back there a little better, especially when it's going to be darker. My lighting in here isn't really the greatest, so I liked adding that. It's totally removable. I can put it wherever I need. I can take it out. I'm going to come up with something a little more secure for that later. Again, just ignoring it. And then forward and reverse for the carriage. And you should see that now. That's a little fast. That's because my speed's way up high. Get a little slower there. You see that works. Now I'm going to put it in reverse. Seems to work pretty good. Now this limit switch should stop the carriage when it hits. As you can see, it does. Our limit switches work. Get that back over there at the start of the disc. That's probably pretty good. So that works. Pretty excited about that. This motor setup that I moved up here, it kind of slips from time to time. We might be moving over to a toothed belt at some point. Again, just ignoring some of these little things just so we can get right into attempting to emboss. There's the inverse RIAA preamp. Again, the box didn't go together too well. We'll play with that later. So now, what we want to do is unwrap the medium. There's a way to do that. We're probably going to spin it a little while, get the wrapping off, clean it with some sort of fluid. There's a whole bunch of different fluids that people use with varying degrees of success. It seems like something that there's no consensus on. It's just kind of whatever works for you. So we're gonna get some of those materials together and try different ones, provided that we actually are able to emboss. I think my head angle is probably going to give me some trouble. We're going to try it. You know, it might not work. That's part of the process. You try things, you throw it at the wall, you see what sticks. I've got microfiber towels for taking care of the medium as well. Anti-static gloves, I bought a set of those. Pretty much everything that I could think of, I put together. So I'm going to get all those things together, and we're gonna unwrap this medium and try to emboss. I'm fully expecting it not to work. I'm fully expecting tons and tons of adjustments, but we got to give it a go. We got to see what happens. So I got excited, and I kind of didn't want to fail on camera right away. Don't worry, you'll have plenty of opportunities to see me fail. I'm hoping to record the next one. I tried to emboss some grooves into the medium, and I learned a lot that I'm doing pretty much everything wrong. It was suggested to use brake parts cleaner, and at least for what I'm using, you can see, not a good idea. That didn't help the matter. So right out of the gate, we were pretty screwed. But if you look real close, and I can't get you into the microscope to show you, the grooves are a little bit bigger. We're trying to aim for 4 mil, is my understanding. So we have a really thin material, but these were more like 6 mil. But they actually, I mean, outside of all the smudginess from the brake parts cleaner, if I wouldn't have done that, that actually doesn't look that bad. That looks pretty good, even the spacing. And I've marked down my setting because my LPI motor is not very accurate, and it's not like I can say, 20 lines per inch. I can't do it. I just have to set it and hope. But that spacing is actually pretty nice. There's some wasted land in there, don't get me wrong. But we have a starting point, at least with that. That's probably the only thing that went right. The heat lamp I put on there, it really didn't get the lacquer hot enough. I think it's too far up. I really think I want it on that platform, but that would be difficult. That would also push it out more towards here. That's a little closer to my playback arm than I particularly care for. playing with this ion blower. I don't know that it necessarily helped. We still had a bunch of stuff clinging to the record. I'm still going to keep it there, but I think this is a good position for it, at least for this size of lacquer. We had a lot of squeaks and a lot of squawks, and that's probably due to head angle. I don't think that I had enough stylus voltage. I kind of went light. I might have had 2 volts, but the way that thing was squeaking, I don't think it really got hot at all. I just touched the stylus with my hand at the shaft portion, not at the cone, because even with a metal stylus like that, you don't really want to put your fingerprints all over it. Stone cold. It didn't get any heat at all. I'm going to put the lacquer back on so you can hear this terribleness. I'm not really worried about this tone arm needle. I've got a couple extras. I fully expected to destroy a few. I'm sure everybody's like, oh my god, your stylus is dead, and look at all that crap on the record. Yeah, I fully expected it. So we were cutting at 33. Put my playback arm in here. That's not music, that's garbage. Now that we did our test cut and it didn't produce any usable audio, we have to rethink about how everything is set up. And one of the things that I discovered is I think the medium wasn't getting warm enough. It was only hitting about 80 degrees, and I think it needs to be closer to 120 from everything that I read. But also, before I started with that, I had to remove my suction tube because I didn't need it for embossing, but it wouldn't come out of our plate here because this lip. So I'm going to carve that lip so that that suction tube can come on and off without me having to take the whole apparatus apart. And I'm also going to redesign the heat stylus terminals because I was giving it quite a bit of amperage for the heat and I didn't really get any, so I'm thinking that those are inefficient. I wanted to do some tests beforehand to see what kind of voltage I was sending there. I didn't. I'm going to modify them to be smaller anyway. I'm also going to clean up this plate. I already did clean up the plate corners a little bit. That's just for show. But I think these modifications are important and are going to help us on our next setup. I brought our heat lamp down about 2 inches to get closer to the PVC to heat it up. When I was hitting it with my temperature gun, I was only getting about 80, and I think I need to be in the range of 110 to 120, somewhere in that area. I also kind of cleaned up this plate back here for the anti-static device and some other cosmetic stuff that I did. But I've been tinkering with the lift solenoid all day. This is super crude. It does function though. So my lift solenoid is here. It's adjustable by a little bit, and then this plate is also adjustable here. And I just took another riv nut on the back of the plate there and drilled and got a bigger one and drilled out the threads so that as you tighten this screw, it pushes this plate closer to the solenoid, because in the up position it's pretty close, but when you lower it for the cut, it goes away actually a pretty reasonable distance. I wanted it to be adjustable so I could pull it back and forth, but when you hit it, it works. And if you see the range of motion on the solenoid, how much I took the needle out right now because I'm going to refine it. That's probably plenty of lift to get the needle off of the PVC. One of the things that I think we did wrong on our first pass of embossing is I didn't see that the stylus got very hot. The embossing cone, like I said, when I tried to touch it, it was stone cold. I don't think it was a voltage issue. I was pretty high up in voltage. I'd say somewhere around 8 to 12 volts. I'm trying to remember. That may not be accurate. I had no residual heat seconds after pulling from the lacquer. The power supply that I'm using, it works. I know that it works. I'm going to double check it just to be 100% sure. I like certainties. I like to be 100% sure on all facets, so I will test that. The other thing I think that happened is my nichrome wire, my heater wire for my embossing cone. I think it was only wrapped maybe 2 to 3 times, and I think I need to do something more like 7 or 8 to get more of a coil going around the embossing cone. So this time I purchased some more embossing cones to test. My other 2, I used dental cement to secure the heater wires to the embossing cone, and as much as I like the secure hold that they have, you really can't take that stuff apart. So if you screwed up in your winding, you are stuck. I suppose I could possibly chip it off of there, but I'm probably going to damage something. So I might just use those. I think I did 1 or 2. I might just use those as like dry run, because you can emboss without heat. I might actually try to do that for a while. Apparently my heat section and my vacuum are not doing what they're supposed to do, probably because I barely have any idea what I'm doing. I wanted to show you wrapping an embossing cone with the nichrome wire. This time we're going to add 8 or so wraps as I've read, and hope that actually generates heat. We're going to run through a couple of tests to make sure that we're actually getting heat at the tip of the embossing cone. The other thing I completely forgot about is I bought these embossing cones from a eBay seller. These embossing cones are very, very well priced. They also include a sheet. It says embossing cone operator's manual, which gives me a whole bunch of settings to start with, which is really nice. That I should have been following, and I think I tried to follow some of these things, but there's some things that I did not do that I think would maybe make a difference. I know that the disc was only at about 80 degrees, where in the operator's manual it says to go up to 105. We've already modified our heat lamp by bringing it closer to the PVC blank. I took about 2 inches off of the stand that the light is on, and I'm thinking that's going to make a difference. I'm afraid to take any more off of that. I don't want to get too close. I don't want it too hot. So I'm going to inch it down to where I can get at least 105 degrees after a reasonable amount of time. We also didn't have, and this is another item that he talks about, is the angle, which he's talking about like 27 degrees is optimal, but 7 degrees or better is like your minimum cutoff. I don't think I had much angle at all. I think I was pretty much straight up and down, so I think that's going to make a difference. I think we should angle back. The plastic, I'm pretty sure we're using the same stuff, Macrolon. The weight is kind of, it's hard to judge. I suppose I do have a scale for the kitchen. I actually bought it for the lathe, but it ended up in the kitchen. That might be able to tell me how much weight I actually have on the head, and maybe that's a test we should do. I don't think it was a problem. We might have even had too much weight on that head, because our depth in the groove was much larger than I think it was like 3 or 4 mil that we were looking for. It was more like 7 or 8. I kind of don't feel like the weight on the head was the problem, but I think we should take some more accurate measurements there and see what kind of weight we are actually pushing. There's also a break-in time. apparently. That's another one of these points. I definitely did not give it 20 to 30 seconds of breaking in time, but also when I played back the PVC, as you heard, it sounded terrible. So I don't know that even if that was considered breaking in, I don't even know if that was correct, judging by all the other things that I think were wrong. I'm going to take our new embossing needle, one of them. I'm going to take it out of the bag here. I'm going to put it on my little foam pad, and then I'm going to wrap the nichrome wire around it 7 to 8 times, and then this time I don't think I'm going to put the dental cement until I know what I'm doing, because it's a more permanent solution. I think we're just going to go with like Elmer's or wood glue and see how that goes, because I can easily take that apart. Alright, let's see how bad we fail. I've got Zippo fluid this time. I've changed the motor setup and angle. I'm going to move us in. Well, I'm going to keep us out for a little bit. I'm going to put some Zippo fluid on here with a rag. Got the warming light going. I'm going to start the stylus heat, which I have preset, and it's not wanting to go. I'm having a problem with that. I don't know if it's a connection. I gotta investigate. It's always something. It can't just work. I've got my ion blower going. I don't know how much Zippo fluid I'm supposed to be using. I don't want to put a lot of it because I have a lot of different things going that are heat related. I don't want any problems with that. And unfortunately, I think that paper towel actually scratched the surface of this plastic. It's okay, it's just a test disc. We already ruined the other side anyway. We're going to advance in right at the edge of the disc. We'll do a test drop here. That looks pretty good. I'm going to start my audio. And then I'm going to drop my needle. And then we're going to go forward. That's way too fast. I'm going to slow it down a bit. Right there looks comfortable. We should have audio going. I'm not hearing it through the head. So let's try and play and see what we're recording. Probably nothing. I don't hear anything. Oh, this might help. Something else I forgot to turn on. No, that should be on. Okay. I don't think we're recording anything. I'm going to stop. See what I got. not hearing any audio, and I should be. No, this thing should be pumping. Let's see what I got. I'm excited, but it probably won't seem like it's much. As you can hear, I have recorded the world's quietest audio. It's not useful, but it makes me feel really good. I underestimated my heat lamp and turned my record into a dish. This video went over a little bit. That's okay. Got a little bit of bonus footage. In some closing thoughts to what we just experienced, I never did show you my wrapping technique for the stylus. I intend on doing that soon. We just kind of ran out of time, so I went for the cut. I did do a second cut after the initial first cut. I raised the volume on the cutter head. I got better results, but I still got a really quiet cut. It even played back on the install turntable that I use for all of my records. So that was exciting. The results may not be the greatest, but I finally put audio into the medium. So that's what we've been trying to do this whole time. What I attribute the low volume to, I believe, is possibly the head angle. We were at about 40 degrees, I believe. That might not be good for what we're trying to accomplish. I purchased a angle meter and kind of set it up with that. I really like this. I'd suggest purchasing it if you want to see your angles a little more accurately. The other thing that it could be is the head. The cutting head isn't the greatest. It's a Webster. The magnet might not be great. The coil might be, might have taken a hit. We don't know. We bought it in unknown condition. Could be a lot going on wrong in there. It certainly doesn't sound the greatest, but I mean, when it did put the audio into the medium, it did sound clear and nice. So it might be fine. Those are the things that I came up with. I still have a problem with my heat stylus being sort of intermittent. I can't tell if it's a connection or a wire or something. I'm going to have to investigate that. Part 4 is going to be fine-tuning and getting the embossing technique down better to where we can have actual usable results. And then we'll prepare for cutting, actual cutting with like a diamond stylus of some sort, and maybe into changing heads, fixing the J10 and giving that a shot. Lots of stuff to look forward to. Well, thanks for watching. Watch for video 4. I will do my best to get that out as soon as possible, and we'll see you next time.